Thank you guys for joining me today. Unafraid, Reister or Wrong. It's George Reister here, and I am your fearless leader, I guess, as you would say, for Unafraid. So, a couple things we're going to talk about today is there is obviously the elephant in the room is the NFL players kneeling, Trump's comments, Steph Curry, and LeBron James. So here is where we're going to start off with today. So first of all, you guys, thank you guys for joining me. Please like the feed, share the feed, continue the conversation so we can get this thing going. I will be taking your comments, all this stuff, and addressing those pretty much at the end of what we're doing. So first and foremost, with the players kneeling and all this dialogue in our country that's going on, I cannot possibly express to you how encouraged I am by this. I'm encouraged by it because when you look at therapy, when you look at anything, right, before you heal things, you actually have to talk about them and have open and honest conversations about what's going on. And there hadn't been a whole lot of open and honest conversations in the past about what was, has, and is going on in our country. So with the players kneeling, so you have to applaud two things, right? You have to applaud players for willing to take a stand, and you have to applaud people for being upset about it and willing to take a stand on their end of it as well. Because we live in the United States, like our servicemen and women, they fight for these rights. They fight for us to have these rights to protest. And a lot of times in this, the actual reason for the protests has actually gotten lost in everything. It's actually gotten lost. Because the first thing is that we do have to acknowledge that there is an issue with not only police brutality, but there's an issue with the adjudication of bad police officers and equality in this country when it comes to the criminal justice system and just in general, right? So I will start off by saying this. First of all, I acknowledge that most people reading the stuff I write, watching this at this point in time, had nothing to do with the horrors of the past in our country. I will acknowledge that. Most people had nothing reading this or watching this had nothing to do with this. However, those things, they did happen in our country. They did happen. And we who live in this time are left to pick up the pieces. It's kind of like the old saying, the sins of the father are left for the sons. So we cannot forget what this protest is about. The protest is specifically about police brutality and inequality in our country and in the criminal justice system. And we do have to acknowledge that these things exist. That's just the truth. These things do exist. Black people and people of color throughout history have not been treated equally and fairly as everybody else. So now we'll get more into that in a second, but then get to Trump's comments. So not only forgetting what the protest is about, our president went on television, because remember, everything he says is publicized, at a rally, and called players a son of a bitch. And the reality of it is that that's going to cause a problem with any man, regardless of race, color, creed, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic standing, whatever it is, right? That is going to cause an issue with other men if you call him a son of a bitch. Guaranteed. I mean, look at how people who voted for Trump, how mad they were when Hillary called them deplorables. People still talking about this now. They changed their name to deplorable, deplorable Jim, deplorable Max, deplorable whatever. People got upset when you called them deplorables. So there's a natural backlash to that, especially when you called white supremacist domestic terrorists in Charlottesville and saying, oh, there were some very fine people in that group in Charlottesville, but you're a son of a bitch for peacefully protesting, like exercising your American rights. And here's where we get confused so many times, right? We get confused with patriotism and flag worship, right? Patriotism is different than flag worship, because the patriots in our country are the people who fight for what's right, do what's right for others, and standing for the national anthem is not the most patriotic thing that you can do. That is the truth. Our servicemen and women, they go out there and fight. They put their lives on the line. They sacrifice, their family sacrifice. I stand up for that. I've been to 12 different bases in the country and around the world. And many athletes and entertainers and everybody, they go support our servicemen and women around the country. They do that. They give their time, energy, effort, and money to it. So you cannot then turn around and call these people unpatriotic. Because if you are a person who, because Trump told people, oh, just walk out of the stadium, just walk out of the stadium. That's not patriotic. You're not paying attention to the national anthem. If you're booing, you're not paying attention to the national anthem. So it's a convenient excuse, is what it is. It is mixing flag worship with patriotism, because this country was founded by patriots. It was founded by people who protested. The American Revolutionary War was about protest against Britain. The people protested the Vietnam War. The Civil War was about protest. When we boycotted the 1980 Olympics over the Soviet Union taking over, invading Afghanistan, that was about protest. This country was founded on protest. Women's rights. When it came to tennis, Billie Jean King, Venus Williams, fighting for equal pay in Wimbledon and all these other majors. The U.S. women's national team fighting for pay increase. Those are patriots. In addition to the other people in the history of our country who have fought and died and put their lives on the line. The Martin Luther Kings, the so many other people in our country who put their life on the line. And those are the real patriots. Regardless of race, color, creed, whatever it is, those are the real patriots. Along with our servicemen and women. So yes, our service men and women do have to be applauded for what they do. But I'll tell you this. Here is one thing that pisses me off more than anything in the whole world, is that on one hand, people scream and yell about patriotism and we're not standing up for the flag. They're disrespecting the nation by disrespecting people in our military by not standing for the anthem. The one thing that pisses me off more than anything is, being that I am a person who has dedicated time, money, energy into our to visiting our troops and being over in other countries and in other places, I will tell you this. The thing that pisses me off more than anything is when those same people who are upset about people kneeling do nothing for our veterans. Our veterans are dying on the streets. Some of them are killing themselves. They come back. They don't have jobs. They don't. The things that they did in the military, they don't have the licenses that actually like certify over into real world. Like, give you an example. You can't be a school. You can be a combat medic, but then you're not qualified to be a school nurse. What kind of sense does that make? It makes none. So we don't take care of our servicemen and women. So I will ask all of you people who are upset about it, please use that same energy and passion about people kneeling for the flag. Actually help our servicemen and women. Please do that. That's what I'll tell you about that. And the reality of the situation is that we're getting caught up on a broken fingernail in the country when we really have a broken arm. Because to actually heal things in the country, we must first acknowledge that they exist. Acknowledge that there's a problem. Because if we don't acknowledge that there is a problem in terms of police brutality in this country, then guess what? We can't get anywhere. Because I will be the first one to raise my hand and say, police officers, I believe police officers are good people, right? That they are good people trying to do the right thing the majority of the time. But we also have people who are criminals who have badges, Criminals who have badges that are pretending to be police officers, and those people need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, just like regular criminals do. And the NFL is on the forefront of that. So if you don't like the fact that the NFL are protesting, then guess what? Then you are a person who does not want to, live in reality. Because sports is always on the forefront of what's going on, not only in the world, but in our country. And politics has always been involved with sports and always will. It always will. You look at the 1936 Olympics. We almost boycotted the 1936 Olympics. Jesse Owens went out there during Hitler's Olympics. Balled out. Jewish people did as well. That's the truth. The 1980 Olympics, we boycotted that, like I said, because of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. We had athletes boycott the Vietnam War. People who were willing to go to jail instead of be drafted and fight for it. People fought for women's rights. Kurt Flood, the person who fell on the sword for free agency. Politics involved in sports. So we cannot expect that there's something that is going to change until we acknowledge the truth and do something different. That's the reality of it. Because our country is hurting, our country is broken at this point in time. But it's healing itself because the dialogue is continuing, and all these things that were left out in the shadows are coming to light. Like all the stuff that was hidden in our country that we wanted to pretend did not exist. Oh, yeah. Those things are on the forefront right now. I'll tell you that much. They are on the forefront, that they are at our doorstep. Just like there's much talk about President Trump's comments about Steph Curry, about him not coming to the White House. He's no longer invited to the White House. The man already said he wasn't coming. So that's the first thing, right? But why should we be upset about Steph Curry not wanting to go to the White House? There were many players who didn't go to the White House when Obama was in office or George Bush was in office. Guess what? That's okay. You don't have to go. It's fine. And guess what? You can't want to throw a hissy fit and a temper tantrum just because somebody doesn't want to come and they openly say that they oppose what you're saying. People publicly oppose President Obama. It is okay. It is our right as Americans. I mean, at what point in time are we going to stop being so sensitive about somebody saying something that we don't like? I got a good question from Patrick Sims. He said, what is the end result? The end result of all of this is how we come to an end, all of that, is A, we have to acknowledge that, okay, we have a broken system, that there is police brutality, that there is things that go on with inequality in our country. So first we have to acknowledge it. That way we can then go back and change it, because there is no changing things in life until you acknowledge them. I mean, I don't know if any of you have been to therapy, but I have. And guess what? Nothing happens until you acknowledge stuff that has gone on. That's just the truth. That's the truth of the matter. And I for one, here's what I can say. I can say that I will acknowledge this, is that a lot of times we get caught up on police brutality and inequality in this country, and it gets caught up on simply a race issue, right? But it's not. Oh, you guys are watching Unafraid, Right or Wrong. Please make sure you like the feed, share the feed, swipe over and share the feed, continue the conversation. The most important thing we have to realize as well is that this is not only a race issue, but this is an economic issue. It's an economic issue, because poor whites are looked at as white trash as well. They don't get a fair shake in the criminal justice system as well. This is true. I know some people are going to be upset with me for saying this, But that's the truth. It's a socioeconomic issue as well. And if you are not willing to raise your hand and say, you know what, I agree. These things did exist, and we have to find a way to change them currently. Because I will tell you this, a lot of times, equality and diversity can feel like oppression to people who are used to having privilege. Because I get where so many white people have said to me in conversations that I've said to them. They're like, we don't think about race. We don't talk about race as much as black people and people of color and women do and all this. Why do you guys talk about it so much? This isn't going on in our life. Like, we aren't talking about this. And the explanation that I have for you is this, is that you don't have to talk about it because you are always represented. You are always included in whatever it is, whether it's film, whether it's media, whether it's any host of things. You're always represented. And when you are part of this country, because you have to remember this, that black people in this country and other people of color, well, black people specifically, this is our country. This is our heritage. When you look at Italian Americans, Mexican Americans, wherever it is that you're from, Russian Americans, whatever it is, they have some history to fall back on, right? They have some history. They have, oh, here's what it was like in our country. Here's what our customs are. Here's what we eat. Here's what we believe. Because I remember last year, one of my kids had a little project, and the project was, give some sort of history of your culture, what you guys eat, your customs, all this. And I thought, like, wow, I'm a black American. I don't have any. Like my food is hamburgers and French fries, hot dogs and pizza. I mean, that's the barbecue. That's the truth. That's what my history is, right? So this country, there have been atrocities that have happened to black people and other people of color, women, all that, right? So it is hurtful when you aren't represented. That's just the truth. It is very hurtful when you aren't represented, or when you are, pulled over while black, when you're not doing anything, when you are stopped and frisked if you're in New York. All these things are hurtful. Like, that's just the truth. Like, when we have to acknowledge that that's what's going on. That's what's going on. And a lot of times I hear so many people, I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, well, what about Chicago? What about black on black crime? All this. Do you think that that's okay too? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We as black people, here's the truth. We as black people, we have to stop killing ourselves. Because the reality is that if we don't value our own lives, nobody else would. Nobody else would. And we have to, as people, make sure that we are not allowing the conversation to be turned with all these protests. The conversation can't be turned because now it's become about the protest as opposed to what the protest is about. So let's remember what the protest is about. Because bad police officers, who I call criminals with badges, have destroyed faith in communities, in the in the police department. And then nowadays, now that some of this stuff that has been happening has been caught on film, caught on tape, there still hasn't been the level of prosecution and fair adjudication of these things for people. It's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. And I just got a comment that said Trump doesn't give a shit about what the protest is about. And that's the thing, is that it's been directed as this flag worship, non-patriotic thing, when there is nothing on earth more patriotic in terms of the United States than protest Everything in this country has been about protest. There is no reform. There is no change without protest. And the idea that, oh, athletes should use their platform, they should make a PSA or something like that, choose another form of protest. I don't like it, right? It makes me uncomfortable. That's good. Isn't that the whole point of protest? Protest is supposed to make you uncomfortable. If it doesn't make you uncomfortable, there is no change. And because when I woke up this morning, I was debating, because I'm writing a thing for tomorrow that I'm going to put out. I hope all you guys read it. I woke up this morning and the narrative was more who's protesting, who's not protesting, this and that. At no point in time in the articles did not one, I read at least 4 or 5, not one from different outlets, whether it's Fox News, CNN, whatever it is. There was not one that actually mentioned what the protest was about, which is the problem there. Now that's the real problem and the real crime in this, is that people aren't realizing what the protest is about. This is about police brutality. And we are assigning something to our servicemen and women that they didn't ask for. Because our servicemen and women fight for our First Amendment rights, they fight for our Second Amendment rights, they fight for all of them. They fight for our ability to protest. So why on earth would we be upset with people exercising those rights that are in our Constitution and that our servicemen and women fight for? Like, let's not get anything confused in this situation. On to LeBron James. LeBron James called the president a bum. How do I feel about that? Don't really care. Because it's part of the job of the office. Did I feel like it was disrespectful? 100%. It was 100% disrespectful. It was intended to be. Did I bat an eye when I posted a video about a week or two ago about the disrespectful things that were said about President Obama? I could make a video, or somebody can make a video about the disrespectful things said about President Bush, Clinton, other Bush, every other president. You can make a video of it. But guess what? It's part of the office. You have to deal with it, suck it up, and pull your panties up, buddy. Get, as my dad would say, get your panties out of wad over something like this. And the idea that, okay, so somebody just said they need to stand for the anthem. Why? Why? The idea is to protest, to bring awareness to an issue that has been largely ignored and continues to be ignored. And I will tell you this one thing in life that is probably the most important thing I've learned. Well, one of the most important things I've learned as just a person who's been in leadership positions and watches our country, is that throughout the world, any time that you try to oppress people who are fighting for what they believe is their rights, if you try to silence them, they only get stronger. Now, that's the truth. They only get stronger. When you look at people who fought for gay rights, try to oppress them, tell them to go live on an island where we're going to burn you at the stake. Guess what happens? They get stronger. They get stronger. Now, that's the truth. When you try to oppress Jews, what happened? They got stronger. They got stronger. And let's not, I got another comment that said that it's disrespecting our country. No, it's not disrespecting our country. We are confusing flag worship with patriotism. If you don't like American values, then stop taking American money. Okay. I like that comment, because that's a fair thing for you to say. Okay, Okay, so let's get to American values. American values are protest. American values are standing up for what you believe in. That's American values. That's American values. And the idea where I've heard multiple people say, if you don't like this country, then get out and leave. Here's the thing. This is our country as much as it is everybody else's. And good is not good enough, because I see comments and people have said to me, this is the least racist place in the world. Where else would you want to live? If you don't like it, then deal with it or get out. I'll give you a quote. Good is not good enough when better is expected. That's the bottom line. When you are expected to be treated like everybody else in the world, well, everybody else in our country, and you don't get that, then it's okay to say and speak up about it. I don't think that this has anything to do with Russia, despite the last comment. Don't think this has anything to do with Russia. And I will agree with my man Patrick Fields. American values are giving somebody the finger and then defending your position. 100%. I am not upset with the people protesting the protest. I'm not upset with the protesters. I love it. I love it, because that means that our country is in a position to heal. That's what that means. We can heal now that these things are actually being open and talked about. It's not always a quick process, but it's happening. Have I heard about the 500-man protest outside the Ravens area facility? I mean, no, I hadn't heard about it, but guess what? It is A-okay. It is A-okay. People have that right, and I am not mad at them. Protest at work. I mean, see, here's the other thing. It said protest whenever you like, but don't protest at work. You have to remember that being a professional athlete is a different job than being anywhere else in the country. Any other place. Because you are looked at as a hero. You are looked at as a role model. You are not only expected, but demanded to stand up for something. Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter. I mean, a whole host of athletes were criticized in the 80s and early 90s for Magic Johnson for not actually standing up for anything. People were criticized for that. But now, people don't like the issue. They take exception to it. They tune out. They're upset. But the reality of it is that politics has always been a part of sports, Justin. It always has. 36 Olympics, 1980 Olympics, people protesting the Vietnam War, Curt Flood getting free agency for people. Politics involved in sports. It always has been. It always will be. And sports is always on the forefront of change, not only in the country, but change in the world. Because sports is a meritocracy. So it's merit-based. So it's hard to discount people and shut out people who are good at their job and can perform better than other people. That's how black people started being able to be quarterbacks, despite that quarterbacks and centers, despite people believing that they weren't mentally capable of doing it well. Because sports allowed that. And that translates over and transcends over into other parts of America as well. Sports is always on the forefront of that. So when we look back 10, 15, 20 years from now, which side of history will you be on? The reality is one side will be on the right side of history and one side won't. Because like I said at first, but there are new viewers now, so I will echo what I said earlier, is that All the dialogue that going on in our country, it encourages me. You can't heal what's going on. You can't bring people together until all the secrets and the hurt come out. And now it's coming out on every side. And that's good. That's fine. But we have to acknowledge and realize that there are a little bit of two sides to this whole thing. Because I will acknowledge this, that most people watching this had nothing to do with the horrors in the past of our country. They didn't. It was the grandfathers, great-grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers, grandmothers, great-grandmother, whatever it is, right? They had nothing to do with this. However, these things did happen, and we're left to pick up the pieces. It's just like where the sins of the father are left for the son to bear that weight. He didn't ask for that weight, but he's got to bear it, and he's got to create a new legacy. And that's what we're charged with doing right now. We have to create a new legacy in this country from what we had been doing, from what we had been a part of. So at the point in time where it is acceptable for the president to call citizens a son of a bitch and expect no one to get upset about it, that's a problem. There's going to be backlash for that. People are going to be upset. If you call any other man on earth a son of a bitch, he's going to have a problem with you. That's just the truth. And what really pissed people off more than anything is that President Trump, that he talked about white supremacists / domestic terrorists in Charlottesville, calling them some very fine people in the crowd. But you're a son of a bitch for peacefully protesting. And mind you, there were people injured there in Charlottesville. They were hurt, all that. It all comes down to some people don't like the cause. Some people don't like the cause. And how mad were people who voted for Trump when Hillary called them deplorables? They're still talking about it now. You're deplorable. I'm not saying that you are deplorable, but I'm saying like that's the word that she used, and you're still mad about it. Imagine if she had called you a son of a bitch. You'd be even more mad about it. That's just the truth. And the last thing before I get up out of here today is that in terms of, I'm going to say this. I get a lot of people ask me about BET. Oh, isn't that racist and all this? Well, these things and these vehicles were created for people of color to have some place to go where they were represented. They need some place where they can be represented. And whether it's media, Justin, I'm going to get to your question. Whether it's in media, whether it's in ownership, whether it's wherever. White people are always represented in this country. There is no place where white America is not represented. So I get that there's this thought that, oh, wow, like this is racist. This is reverse racism or whatever it is. Yes, on some level, it's not right. It is a double standard. I will 100% agree that looks a little funny, right? 100% agree with that. That yes, it does look reverse racist or whatever the hell that you want to call it. But don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that diversity and inclusion and equality and all this stuff is actually needed. Think about this, that segregation hasn't even been over for 50 years. Hasn't even been over for 50 years. Schools weren't fully integrated until the 1980s. I mean, let's just be real. So we're not that far removed from everything. And then from there, you had to go to people being able to get jobs. People were, because of their names, they weren't given opportunities. They weren't given fair shakes and fair chances. So the fact that there was affirmative action, or that there is mandated diversity in companies, is inherently wrong. Like, that is inherently wrong. That you should force companies to hire people because they're a certain gender or race or sexuality or whatever it is. That is 100% wrong. However, the actual need for that is the actual problem. Our bias is the problem. And to get to Justin's question, he said, what reasonable things need to be done going forward? So with the protests, where I said that things got lost and things got confused, the protests are actually about police brutality and equality and all that. What needs to be done is a couple things. Number one, good police officers, right? The vast minority of police officers are criminals with badges, right? Those criminals with badges, they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And good police officers, under no circumstances, should protect them. Because it's not the fact that bad things happen in our country. It's not the fact that people are killed out in the street. Because, mind you, like I said earlier, it's not just a race issue. It's a socioeconomic issue. Because poor whites, they get it as well. Like, very poor whites, they get it as well. So it's not just that. So it's when police kill people or ravage the community, planting drugs or beating people, going in their house without a search warrant, doing all these things, pulling over people simply because they are a certain race, color, or creed. Those people need to be punished. They don't need to be police officers. They need to be punished like criminals that they are. That's how you change it. Question about Ray Lewis. My thoughts on Ray Lewis joining in the protest after his previous comments about Cap needing to drop the protest. That was a backlash to President Trump calling athletes a son of a bitch. Mind you, the NFL owners have remained silent. Roger Goodell have remained silent. I had to give Roger Goodell props for speaking up about it, for speaking out about it. Comments were a little bit soft, but they were comments nonetheless. The Jaguars owner Khan stepped up, showed solidarity with his players. The Giants owner stepped up. So this is very, very important because, mind you, President Trump messed up when he went against other white billionaires. That's where he messed up. That's where he messed up. Because now he has people caring about the issue who were kind of, I don't know. Because remember, billionaires, they'll figure out ways to make money. And what's more important to a lot of them than even their money? Their principles and their pride. Like, that's what men are. Like, once you start offending men's pride, then you get a problem. And he offended the owner's pride. And he offended NFL players and NBA players' pride. Yes, there was some negative reaction from the black community about Ray Lewis. I would agree with that because they didn't like his comments about Kaepernick in the beginning and and the fact that he was included in that Django tweet. So he was offended by that. And then it looks like, oh, wait, hold up. Now all of a sudden you got hit in the face. Now all of a sudden you want to join in. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that sometimes people, they realize, you know what? I was wrong about this. Let me get on the right side of history now. That's just the truth. Because I'm a person who believes in the Bible. What does the Bible say? We'll heal all things. Love will heal all things. And if we don't show love and compassion and caring to other people, we're not going to get anywhere. That's just the truth. So You guys, if you guys have any questions or any more comments, send them in. I'll take them for just a few minutes before we get out of here on Unafraid today. Thank you guys for joining me. Yeah. And, you know, I'll be posting, I'm writing an article about all these things. It'll be ready for the morning. Hopefully you guys read it. And hopefully you guys join me, tomorrow. All right. Peace out.